So, I should probably admit right at the top, I am a fairly unashamed Gore Verbinski apologist. As a director, he's just constantly surprising me, creating images and crafting sequences that are undeniably distinct and clearly conceived by a man with a real eye for cinema, which I think is no more proven than by his ability to take misguided script after misguided script and actually infuse into them personality, characters, atmosphere, and action that does elevate those films to a place that I will almost always, at the very least, admire. And so again, with A Cure for Wellness, I saw that same, dare I say, auteur at work. This film was so clearly made by an artist who completely understood its rather simple message and aligned everything with that theme. So with DeHaan's Lockhart, for example, he starts his journey trapped in this rigid, soul-sucking job so devoid of any connection or compassion, and every visual and musical decision during that time augmented that. The audio design felt crushing and suffocating, and the cinematography sickly and desaturated. But then, when the character traveled to this rejuvenation spa in the Swiss Alps to bring home his boss, the film began to open up. There was light, color, and breath, something that Verbinski specifically obsessed over in this film. The sound of a quick inhale, the tone of a deep exhale, the pitch of a drag of a cigarette. He just loved capturing all of that tone, texture, and feeling. After Lockhart's arrival at the spa, though, it doesn't take long for the initial dreamlike quality of that place to become a nightmare, one which Verbinski just delighted in creating. There was one specific moment where this character had laid out on this desk just this mess of books, photographs, and cut-up crossword puzzles, and I did remember thinking, Verbinski as a director is so very similar to that character. At first glance, that individual may appear to be disorganized and chaotic, but on closer inspection, it was so clear that a seasoned designer arranged things that way, even reconstructing crossword clippings to form an altogether more interesting and purposeful puzzle. A puzzle that was completely intended to suck the protagonist and we the viewer along with him into this truly hypnotic and bizarre world of this spa. And in that way, A Cure for Wellness does take certain narrative and visual cues from films like Martin Scorsese's Shutter Island or Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. A character finds himself trapped in what initially appears to be this rather idyllic location that soon becomes the exact opposite, undoing that character from the inside out. This film even adopts an aspect ratio similar to The Shining, as well as recreates a number of its iconic images. Slow, inexplicably dread-filled drives up mountain roads, and long, disorientating walks through seemingly unending passageways and corridors. And indeed, this entire film was one massive, disorientating puzzle, a puzzle that, over and over again, quite literally took us from places of light into places of dark, and then back to places of light once again, always making us question whether or not the light that the character emerged into was the same light that they had left, and even more than that, whether or not they were the same individual as before. And if it sounds like I'm speaking gibberish and you're getting dizzy just listening to me describe these images, well, that was exactly what Verbinski was going for on this film. And even as the film was ultimately building to this grand narrative reveal, like so many of the director's films, that wasn't the main focus, and often narrative cohesion and straightforward structure and pace were sacrificed for visual and auditory poetry. Which for me ultimately was this film's undoing. It was just a little too obsessed with every one of those images, ideas, and themes to realize how much it was repeating itself, and that with every cycle, those elements became less creepy, less intriguing, less dreamlike, and less poetic. And the less interesting those cinematic elements became, the more glaringly predictable and uninteresting the story became. And even as DeHaan, Mia Goth, and Jason Isaacs really did their best to fit into this film's often heightened tone, there was just one too many moments where their on-the-nose dialogue and actions took me out of it. And ultimately, after 2 hours and 20 minutes of watching Lockhart attempt to uncover this spa's twisted secrets, I felt as if Verbinski too had become lost in this narrative, not knowing exactly what film he was making or whether a Pirates of the Caribbean scaled finale was an appropriate way to conclude it. And for all these reasons, I will give the film a 2.5 out of 5, and, perhaps surprisingly, a heart, if only because Gore Verbinski, so unlike so many directors these days, does know how to tell a story visually and put on screen things that are iconic and memorable, if only just to entertain me and show me something that I have not yet seen. And for that, I've got to give this film just a little bit of love. Those are my thoughts anyways. I would love to know what you guys thought of the film though, so definitely comment below and let me know. Also, Gore Verbinski has a very eclectic filmography, from Mouse Hunt to The Mexican to The Ring to the Pirates of the Caribbean films to Weatherman to Rango to The Lone Ranger and now A Cure for Wellness. And I am curious, of all of those, what would you say is your personal favorite? I think for me it's a pretty even toss-up between The Ring and the first Pirates of the Caribbean film. Finally, please do subscribe. I'm going to continue to review films and television on this channel, and I would love if you stay up to date on all of those things. But for now, I'm Chris Hartwell. This is The Heartbeat. Thank you for joining me.